Hello and welcome to Prime Lenses. I'm Ian. Each week I speak to a photographer about 3 lenses that have meant something to them on their photographic journey. It's unashamedly gear chat, but hopefully focused more on the images made with that gear than performance metrics and graphs. My guest today is David Barth. David is the founder of a company called Pixie, a French-based team of photography enthusiasts and some might say mad people who decided to take it upon themselves to develop a completely new type of camera. A digital rangefinder without a screen that seeks to reinvent the way we engage with a high-quality interchangeable lens system. I worked with David over a decade ago in an open source software company and was stunned when I saw his face on the website for Pixie a couple of years ago. So stunned that I messaged him on LinkedIn and we had a little chat. Well, fast forward to now, and I thought he'd be an ideal guest to come on and passionately talk about his company and what they're trying to do and, the camera and where they find themselves right now. I mean, how often do you get to talk to people who are making a camera? Like, almost never. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with David.
Good to see you.
You too. How's it going?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Well,
It has been a while.
I'm just back from work. I had the time to swallow a baguette and a croissant, of course.
Oh, of course. How appropriate. Marvelous. Oh, that's really good. Thank you for being so true to form as well. And is it of your little espresso as well, just to give yourself a little,
exactly.
little pep? Nice. Oh, great. It's so good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Has it been 15 years, do you think? Something? Well, no, 15 years ago, I guess we started working together.
Right. Yeah. 10 years. Yeah. Well, not
so
that old.
Maybe 10 or so. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just, whoa.
But, I mean, yeah. I wonder if you still have the photo I was taking of you, with my old analog camera, in the streets where the MI6 or something is located. Yeah, remember? Or...
Yeah, vaguely. Yes, because I remember I was always running around with that Nikon that I had with Ken telling me that my camera.
I couldn't find it anymore because I went back to my old archives from Canonical. So I could find the finds, but no, I don't have it anymore. So,
man, it's good. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, with these things, the way I do them, the show is the show. So I just sort of start recording and hit record. So we should probably say out loud, just so that it makes it into the episode, that we started working together. It would be about 15 years ago, I guess, 2009. Yep. I think I first worked at Canonical. How do you reflect on those times now? Like just all that time later?
Yeah. It was a great time. I mean, I do enjoy what I'm living right now. But yeah, I guess the expression is fond memories of all of that time. But yeah,
it was funny. It felt like we were building the future for sure, which you don't always get to do, right? You don't always get to be a part of. But I feel like in general, the world will look back on that period, sort of the late 2000s, where Linux really took off. We kept joking it's the year of the Linux desktop.
Oh yeah.
it always was. It always was for forever and ever.
Never gets old.
No. But the funny thing is, we did win, just not in the way that we expected to.
Yeah.
We all thought that unseating Windows was the way to do it, and I think at the time it felt like it was. But
right, and in hindsight, also we were not so obsessed about Windows anymore. In that, we were probably precursors in that we were already aiming at other form factors, and Mark was pre-signed in that, and get his share of stoning for daring to look elsewhere. But yeah, it was really exciting to live through this period and join this team. And the interactions with not only the engineers but the designers. I remember the sessions with Charlene.
Yeah.
I keep referring to her as someone who had some kind of Jedi Force to get into the minds of people and really understand how to read their minds, right? Mind reading
No,
Uh,
we had a good team for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, fun times. Well, it's good. I saw Evan earlier this week
Oh yeah.
in
Okay.
London. He works at Grafana now, which is where
Right.
Alice is as well,
Yeah.
and others. And so yeah, so seeing him and catching up over lunch, albeit briefly, was really nice. So there's a
Okay.
few people from that time that
Okay.
I still
Well,
speak to.
if you do happen to see them, say hello, from me,
Yeah.
and hello to Alice as well. Alice, actually, I was just thinking yesterday. It feels like Alice in Wonderland. What I got into, like this rabbit hole where
Mm.
I'm not so sure I'm out of it, right? I may still be living through strange things and meeting
Mm.
strange people, but it feels a bit
Yeah.
like that. And precisely the photo I was taking of you, with this old camera, is kind of
Yeah.
what gradually nudged and pushed me into this new, fantasy land where I do make a
Yeah.
camera myself.
Which is an incredible thing. And then so looking up the Pixie, because it came across, it sort of appeared in all, if you're a fan of photography, I think the
Mm.
Pixie, when you first launched, like appeared in front of just about everyone, and sort of, because there's a lot of excitement. New cameras don't
Yeah,
come out very often, especially from completely new manufacturers, right? And like
yeah,
the
yeah,
before reading about the Pixie, the first new camera I remember sort of seeing about was things like the Otto, which was that GIF camera that was on Kickstarter in the sort of
yeah.
early, like
Right.
2011, 2012. Because your product is so specifically a rangefinder, like when I was making notes for the
Hmm.
conversation, it was almost a case of like, I kind of only have one question, which is what possesses someone to take that view and do it again, to make a rangefinder in the 2020s? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Well, good question.
This can be therapy as well, if that helps. Like,
Oh yeah. I don't have cash on hand, however, but
this
because
is totally free. Don't worry.
I'm hearing,
First, it's free.
this is really part of the process. This thing in the open source community where we say we have this itch to scratch, right? And this is where it starts. It's maybe a bit like this, like in that period where we worked together. I I start using analog cameras. Even before that, I have two boys. The second one arrives, and I have this dusty Nikon, in the back of a closet, and I'm thinking, well, I should try again to understand how it works, because again, frustration. I'm an engineer and I've read all the manuals and don't get it, aperture, speed, this is all going backwards, and no. So I finally find a manual camera, and actually it is a rangefinder. It is a M8, because my father-in-law, once gave me his old analog rangefinder camera, which I found, totally odd, impractical. It's not digital. What is this thing? Not able to use it. But somehow it infects me. And so progressively, from this initial manual digital camera, I find a analog manual camera with, again, an optical viewfinder. So it's not the Auto. In my case, it was a Sony attachment, lens attachment that goes onto a smartphone, which I tried, which makes me feel dizzy because there is a lot of lag between, the thing and Wi-Fi and all. So not particularly attracted in the end by the system, except by the concept. Then I go on. I have this really old camera from the 30s, which is really fun to use. You have to crank the film every time you want to take a photo. So I start imagining that maybe I could, rewind an electrical generator so that eventually I can make pictures with the energy of my, I'm generating myself. Well, eventually, a few years later, engineers are going to tell me, forget it. You have to rewind for 2 minutes minimum to take one single photo. So, but that's why, incidentally, it is called Pixie, because of Sir or Monsieur Hippolyte Pixie, French engineer of the 19th, who invented the ancestor of the dynamo.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, nothing to do with the Pixies, although I love the band.
Sure. Yeah.
And nothing to do with the pixels. Also, I mean, everyone gets the play word, but it's because of Hippolyte Pixie.
That's so cool. That's have
And
you ever spoken
maybe
about that
one
before?
day
Or?
I'll manage to, get it to work. But right. So anyway, so we're already down this rabbit hole somehow, because I find the analog photography very interesting, but quite tedious in the end. Developing film and so on. I have this huge like Barth system where I can develop color photography. With the check of the temperature and all of this. So I really dive into that. I sent you, I guess, a picture of my youngest son, who was looking through the Linhof Technica, so like frame cameras and so on. I try everything I can put my hand on, and eventually I disassemble a camera. So there is also this photo I sent you, and I start meeting very curious people who are into repairing old cameras and so on. So I make a lot of new friendships through this and rangefinder forums. And I find that there is a clock mechanism inside this old camera, because photography requires you to measure the time you expose. And I come from a city, a small city where they used to make watches. And they were big into watches. So the city is called Besançon. It's actually not so far from the Swiss border, where a lot of the people have also immigrated, because the Swiss industry is a lot more powerful these days when it comes to mechanical watches. But still, there is a lot of expertise, and there are still like engineering schools where they teach people how to design mechanical watches.
That's so
So
cool.
they learn in France, and then they go for the jackpot in Switzerland.
Yeah, and then maybe end up designing them for Leica. Although I think their ones are German actually. But yes, like hilarious. Do you know someone at Leica? I was at Wetzlar last year, and someone at Lights Park told me that when they first put the watches on sale, and bear in mind at this point no one has held one, seen one, anything. They made a very small number of these £11,000 watches or whatever they are. They sold out instantly.
Oh yeah,
people were just like
of course.
it's mad. Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll make a watch. We have some ideas here, but no. The name of the game is to be focused, very, very focused, and with a very sharp focus. If you want to hold the distance, it's been almost 10 years. I started the company because it's more than 10 years that I've been thinking about that. But I've kind of invested myself, all of my money, of course, like any true entrepreneur needs to do, even if I pretended I would never do anything as crazy as that, because, no, you shouldn't be doing that, except once you believe that what you're doing is the right thing to do. Well, everything goes. A lot of my time since then. Why am I saying that? Because just saying it's taking a lot of time. It needs a lot of focus, and part of the focus is making a rangefinder camera. I could have been doing all sorts of cameras. It happens that, well, this is how I somehow understood how it all works. Manual camera, the joy of an optical viewfinder, and then a rangefinder at that. And when you become serious about really making your own camera, there are not so many options. So let's say I want to make a digital camera. So I could make a digital camera like Sony, and then they would just roll on me without even noticing it. Same for Canon, Nikon, and so on. You know, the three guys, they are just, it's an oligarchy, oligopoly, and there's absolutely zero room for small actors. At least when you don't have like $100 million in front of you, or any industrial capacity of the same magnitude. So what you do is you do a specialist, a niche product.
Yes.
And so, wow, I could have done like frame cameras. I forgot the exact name. You see what I mean? I mean the large format cameras. It's frame cameras, right? It's called,
I think. I mean, yeah, large format.
Right. But anyway,
yeah,
we do happen to have like very good neighbors
yeah,
who we've also friends with, called Arca Swiss.
Mm.
They're in the very same city.
Mhm.
So actually, we're the second French camera maker since 40 years or so, because actually the Swiss went back to France where it all got started. Of course, not mentioning the I'm joking, right? I know the history of the invention of photography was between a British inventor and a French inventor, and it's all fine that everyone loves photography and shouldn't care so much about who was first and second. Just to say, focus, niche, rangefinder is what I liked. And then, well, I thought the market conditions were going to be more in favor of a small player. Because also, that's something I mentioned, but I see myself both as an engineer, but also I happen to have studied economics in the first place, where, offer and demand, what's it called? The Nash equilibrium, the game theory. I didn't want to mess up with the big boys, and I preferred to go with a more interesting sector like the rangefinder sector, where there happened to there was a monopoly, a de facto monopoly, which was just crying for a second actor to come.
Yeah, that's so cool.
In
That's
2018.
amazing.
So in 2018, we announced the product. 1 hour later, I have a mail from our German friends.
Really?
What we're doing, yeah.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Welcoming you to the space, I assume.
Yeah, welcoming us very warmly by announcing barely 6 months later a camera 50% less expensive than they used to make them. Welcome.
Yeah.
So we just dunk and avoid to die and go on.
Yeah.
And in 2019, I have the luck to meet the former SVP of GoPro, who kind of reassures us that we have a super camera in hand, and it's very hard to make a camera, and it's kind of normal that we're a bit behind schedule, and having still a ton of problems to solve and all of that. And he also happens to have a good network of friends who we've been able to get help from. And so eventually in 2020, right after COVID, so it's 2020 or 2021, keep forgetting. Anyway, right after COVID, we released the first Pixie camera, which is an international success. Very little.
Yes. Yeah. I know a few people who managed to get hold
very
of them.
little, yes. But the USA, Japan, United Kingdom, Germany, 0 in France, which is
Really?
expected.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe 1. Actually, no,
yeah.
one of my investors is
Okay.
French, and so one of
Yes.
them, bought a Pixie. I just saw him today.
Oh, cool.
He was retrieving his camera, which has been upgraded twice already. So that's part of the fun story with
Yeah.
Pixie as well.
The upgrade path is definitely something I'm interested to talk about because I think that
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
yeah. Uh, it is my open source community somehow. It is my community, definitely. It is the we're building this together, and I don't want to let you down because you're with me. So you bought the first camera. I definitely don't want to. I definitely don't want you to be disappointed because just 1.5 years later, I have this second camera with a very different sensor, and so I offer the ability to all the first buyers to upgrade to the next camera, and because we were able to do it, and it was also easier for us to do it. Less parts to reinvent. We're not reinventing the wheel a second time because it already took us many years to do it. And gradually, because we've done it once, then we're doing it a second time for the 64-bit version. And so that becomes more of a thing that I'm confident in advertising, quote, as a characteristic of Pixie. Initially, I saw, well, okay, so our first camera was great, but had issues. So we're fixing them with a second one and a very different sensor. So, okay. And then, oh yeah, but we could also upgrade the processor and all of that. Okay, now that becomes a trend. That becomes something we know how to do with confidence and repeatedly. Yep.
Well, we could talk a little bit about like the move, I guess, from one thing to because obviously, like if you come to this from a tech world, like we've come
Yeah.
from a tech background, we
Yeah.
pursue we're fascinated, like we understand a little bit about, and you will know a lot more about this now. But like I've worked in manufacturing and
Mhm.
managing supply chain, and one day your supplier says we don't make that part anymore, we now make this part, which is a drop-in replacement for the other one, but also does
Oh yeah.
this,
Yeah.
so like quite often because they've got to progress, they're moving forward. So all of the
Mhm.
components that you're kind of putting in this thing it what was the I guess for you, yes, you're small and you're nimble, so it works for you as a business. Like,
The
what
upgrade, you
does the
mean?
yeah, what
Yeah.
does that day look like when you go, wait a minute, we could this doesn't have to be just a new camera. This could be
Yeah.
an upgrade.
Well, the there are a few contributing factors. Uh, there was still this idea from the very beginning that upgrade would be part of the system, the business model, in that in the business plan, the grand plan to take on the world, there was a service part where I thought we're going to upgrade the cameras. Because why? Because the M8 that had me started, into this world had this upgrade capability, except it was actually bug fixing, right? Fixing the IR cut filter, which they got wrong initially, plus the frame lines, which were miscalculated. No offense to our German friends again, but well,
No,
that's
of
what it
course.
is. I mean,
Yes.
and
Statement of
I won't
fact. It's
blame
fine.
them because we've had our bag of issues as well. But anyway, there was this idea that, yeah, well, maybe why not? The second key factor was COVID, because, post-COVID, the supply chain goes like, this processor that I can deliver in 5 weeks, now it's 56 weeks. In other words, we're not making them. We absolutely don't know when we'll have the parts anymore. So just don't plan to get one
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Wow.
And we go, it's time to look for another processor. And And it's a bit the same thing with the sensor. Also with the sensor, it's a different story in that at the time we start the development, we choose a sensor which is available for players like us. That is, I look at different manufacturers. I have distributors, I discuss with, and I ask about this particular sensor, and they go like, well, if you can order 10,000 and commit to that, yeah, maybe we can introduce you to the manufacturer. Otherwise, don't even bother. So we go, okay, we're going to go with this one, which is more expensive, has higher-end features in some parts or others, and they're willing to sell us, 100 units or so, and that's fine. A few years later, and because we have Fabrice Barbier on our board, the GoPro guy, and then it's a whole different ball. It's like, oh, this sensor is, it's a very good one, but actually you should ask your distributor, tell us we told you that to offer you the other version, which is even better and more tailored to your use case. So at that point, we have access to a very interesting sensor. We go from a global sensor to a very, very good rolling shutter sensor, right? So the global shutter was very interesting in that the picture is captured in one go, right? One frame at a time. The rolling shutter sensor, captures the image gradually, but we actually find a way to drive it very, very fast so that you don't get the rolling shutter artifact, and what I mean is that we don't have to put a mechanical shutter in the camera. That's the key element of the design of Pixie, where we have the ability to change a lot of things because we don't have the same baggage as the rest of the industry. We don't have the specialized ASICs or processors, or even real-time operating systems and software and all of that, right? Which you don't want to mess with so much, or right, they're working, so you don't move them and so on. Here it's a specialized smartphone, if you prefer, right? So it's not a Raspberry Pi because, wow, Raspberry Pi is fun, but it's horrendous when it comes to power consumption, and we're not that good in power consumption in the power consumption department, but the Raspberry Pi is horrendous, and the boot time is awful as well.
I think it's a tiny computer,
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're expecting in the embedded world it's going to be relatively fast, except it takes a second and a half just to initialize the memory, because they don't have a built-in memory controller, which means the software has to initialize the memory. So, well, anyway.
You're making an appliance, not a computer, I think is the key distinction. And it's funny because I work in games now, and so when you look at things like the Steam Deck, for example, I've got a Legion Go. So that's a Legion Go and a Steam Deck are both portable gaming focused PCs. They're laptops without keyboards, effectively.
Right.
But what Valve have done more so than something that runs, say, Windows to run games, is that when you turn the Steam Deck on, you get a very console-like experience because they've customized it, right? And that's kind of what you want as a consumer. But even the Steam Deck, when you run one game and then you jump back to the menu and go to run another one, it doesn't just quit the game and launch the next one, which is what it should do. It goes, hey, just so you know, I'm going to have to turn one game off and start another one. Is that okay? And it's like, no, stop being a computer. Be a games console, right? And that's the same thing. It's the same with the Otto, the little GIF camera. It just every turn betrayed the fact that this thing was actually a tiny computer pretending to be a camera, not the other way around. And I feel like from talking to you, the feel of this thing was so important. You're choosing a rangefinder partly because it's niche and product market fit, but also partly because the feel of this thing in your hand and a bit of a heritage and a bit of it has to feel a certain way for people to want to use it, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope I removed, as much as possible of the I am a computer thing in the camera, but the good thing and the thing that allows us to move fast is that it's a Linux system, right? Which means that yes, networking, multitasking, etc. Userland drivers. Well, I made some kernel drivers and so on, but the best thing is when everything can run in userland. Where the critical parts they are in the FPGA anyway. So those you never miss a clock. I missed the word, but anyway, you see what I mean. You never miss a clock tick because the FPGA is taking care of that, and the rest of the system can go on its own way. Right. So this is what I've built so far. So, but we haven't discussed photography.
No, so that was going to be my next question. So you built this incredible tool for photography, and I was going to use that as a jumping off point onto your your first lens choice, because is that Summicron 40 has kind of enjoyed 40mm in general seems like a lens that's coming back, that people are suddenly paying attention to 40mm again. In the last sort of 18 months, YouTube is filled with videos of people going 40mm is the new 50, but also the new 35. And that Summicron comes a lot because it's fairly affordable as a Leica lens. So was that on your bodies and cameras before? Did you inherit that one?
Glued to my Pixie
right.
for 5 years. Sometimes I do have the Elmerit you so love as well.
It's so good, that lens. It's underrated, and it's so small. It's so small. The contrast is just chef's kiss. Delicious.
But they're very different in that. When I want something sharp, not clinical, but with some depth, I use this one. And when I want something more, it's more of a portrait lens on my current Pixie.
Of course, because it's APS-C, isn't it? So,
right. But in all cases, I do prefer my lenses small and compact. Right.
Same.
Yeah. So
the biggest I allow myself to go when I'm sort of wandering around is my 50 Summicron.
Right.
Which is as big as I will let myself go, because it's got to be put like. And also, this isn't my job, right? I'm not there to get coverage or a certain type of thing. I'm really enjoying at the moment, like F8 and be there, just capture the scene, and don't worry about like creating art and soft bokeh, and like focusing a rangefinder at f2 or lower than f2 is very hard. And then the lenses get massive and expensive. Like when they're selling you a $6,000 Simulux. So I'm here for you on those lens choices completely.
And the 40 is one of the first lenses I've been using, and we've been also optimizing the camera for that. And because one of my friends from that time was into old rangefinders and repairing them and all of that, he's a huge fan of the Role 35. And he tells me, how he loves the 40mm format, and why the Role lens versus the Summicron and so on. So myself, then I started to follow his impressions or his lead, and using this 40. Well, at the time I also have the M8, so it's not really a 40, so I use my 35 Role at the same time. There is something special with the 40, and so if it becomes trendy as well, so much. So cool. And then the other, we discussed the 28. It's a different lens. But what I was going to say when I said we haven't discussed photography so much is that, well, I've been doing a bit of photography when when we were working together, because I was only using the camera. So discovering how it works was fine, but I was more into trying to create pictures. I'm not sure I'm so good at that. At least it takes time, it takes practice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's an art, but it is also why I was attracted to that. In that, wow, I'm kind of tired of being this technician, engineer, serious and all. I want to be an artist.
Yeah, I think
Right, that's
creativity in
the
all
inner
its forms.
artist in you that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want
yeah.
to discover. And yeah, unfortunately, I haven't had the occasion to do much photography in the
Mm,
last 10 years, because what camera that has become a an engineering problem again, right? Or
right.
a puzzle. Um,
Yes.
but it's and I'm back to this, Alice in Wonderland
Yeah.
analogy, in that it is a fantastic world where you know you turn a stone and you have, oh yeah, power consumption, I can do this and that to optimize. And then you go, okay, how can I drive the sensor so fast that I don't need a mechanical shutter. And
Mm,
so starting to find the way to do that. uh, the same way, how do you make a rangefinder? Because the start of the story was, okay, fine, a rangefinder is really cool, and there is a business opportunity. Well, now how do I do that? Maybe I can ask Mr. Voigtlander if they have a few, thing, or they would like to make a deal, or no, they don't.
right.
They don't.
Oh,
They are not interested in responding to emails. They are not
right.
interested in, hobby projects. The other players, they either are exiting the market, or they've already died many decades ago. I'm looking at the French manufacturers who just all disappeared from the surface of Earth. So the answer is, you have to do it yourself. or,
Yeah,
or, maybe,
nowhere else to go.
or maybe you call a German manufacturer and say, I'm a Russian industrial, military industrial conglomerate, and I would like to
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
some cameras. But
Yeah.
anyway, that was not the idea. So we're making everything, and so we're making everything. So which means we have to understand how everything works, and how everything needs to be optimized from a mechanical, optical, electronic point of view, and so on. And that's great, right?
Yeah.
So I don't feel the need to scratch my artistic itch, if
Right.
that makes
You've
sense.
got a lot of. It sounds like you're not
Well,
short of
I
challenges
have
to
plenty
overcome.
of things to scratch, because plenty of things to optimize, and all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
How do
occasionally,
you ever give yourself the chance to go out and play with your camera though? Like, because it feels, it
yeah,
must be an incredible feeling now to be able to
yeah.
hold your camera in your
No.
hands, or do you just see the problems? Can you not enjoy it?
And this is mostly why I haven't been doing so much photography. It's because I have a hard time enjoying it, because I'm always seeing the things that I need to change, update, fix, optimize, and all of that. So it's very rare that actually um, because we're sprinting, we're running the sprint for almost 10 years, where we have to make a product out the door, put it on market, communicate to customers, fix problems, make the production, speed up the production, because we get so many demand, and people, are starting to, get worried, because it's been 3 months they've placed their order, and it's still not coming. Thankfully, this has become way better now. So there is holidays is where I can code, and where I can have many hours without distractions.
Right.
And so
So
I
you're
went
working your vacation as like you're
yeah.
like it's just not in the office time basically.
Right, but because I really enjoyed this part as well, right? Not pretending to be, just a coal mine worker. Um,
There's still a bright light in your eyes. Like it
oh
seems
yeah,
like you're
oh yeah,
enjoying it.
definitely.
Once you've made something for yourself, you've made a
Yeah.
tool.
uh, Well, first, when something changes, this is where I use the camera a lot more because I need to experiment with the new thing and verify, it works. And there's a bit of this feeling recently where I have something very new that I haven't had so far, and I get to experiment first. And so, yes, I've had this excitement very, very recently, and I'm at a loss with words to describe that. In that, uh, it's like you're driving your car and you've made the car. And a car is a very, very complex system, and I wouldn't imagine myself, driving my own car. But somehow this is what I'm doing with this camera. And suddenly, again, I had this feeling that, whoa, yeah, it's not coming out from the shop. It is something that we've built, and I guess it's the same excitement that we were all sharing 10 years ago when we were releasing a new version of Ubuntu. In that, yes, we've built this together. And this is where I circle back to this idea that, the people who have been using Pixie, they are part of this community where we're building this together. In that, I get a lot of feedback. That is, we're a small player, we're a niche player, we have long lead times, our camera is not totally affordable, also I guess it provides an interesting price point on the market.
Relative, yeah.
And they're very generous with their time and the feedback they're sharing, and their patience also with problems like you have a bug, it should be doing this and that, and it's not doing it in this situation. Okay, I see it, etc. And this is what have helped us come to where we are right now with with a camera that I can generally call the engineering community a decent, a good digital camera, and what I wanted to make a camera with an optical viewfinder without anything screen on the back, and that is connected.
Yeah, it feels like a very modern distillation of the camera. It's almost looking at the Pixie, you feel like there was a parallel universe where nobody ever, once upon a time, nobody thought to put a screen on it because
Yeah.
the ones that came before didn't have a screen. So why would you put a screen on it? And
Yeah.
so that one decision by someone somewhere that then got picked up by everyone sent us down a path where that's the assumed thing now. But of course, it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could have just said no.
No to what you mean?
Well, no to having a screen. You could have said,
Oh yeah.
you could like someone making a camera just could have said, no, this thing doesn't need a screen. Like you don't have a screen on a film camera. Why do you need a screen on a
Right.
digital camera? You can look at them later.
But at the time, it totally made sense to have a screen at the back of the camera because not everyone had a screen, right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah. And you need
everyone
to
does
review in
have
the
a
moment.
screen, and the screen at the back of the camera is a liability because it's always old, scratched, and
Yeah.
colors are bad, or characterizing, but I mean, it's not needed anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's not.
Everyone's got an amazing screen in their pocket that's
Oh
being
yeah,
upgraded every 2 years.
that's the very
Yeah.
point. That's the very point. Plus, and well, this is where it gets, metaphysical. It actually ruins the quality, maybe of the photo, definitely of the experience to have the screen. So, look, man, no screen.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's really, really cool. Because I haven't had a chance to handle one
Yeah.
yet. I was talking to Matthias Berling yesterday,
Oh yeah.
who was a very early adopter, and he
Oh yeah.
cycles through gear so quickly.
Yep.
So he was like, "Yeah,
You're
I
right.
I had it. I really enjoyed it. I don't have it anymore." But
Mhm.
what's it like from a weight and a handling perspective? Is it quite small? Is it quite,
It's
compared to some of the
600
competition?
grams or something,
Right.
so it's definitely lighter than my old M8. Well, apparently the recent other rangefinders are made of aluminum now, so it's closer
Yeah.
to what we have. It's
Yeah.
it's relatively lightweight. Um, I do happen to have a. It's a bit like a Fuji.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually a very close cousin of their sensor, anyway. So
Right. Yeah.
it's more like this small camera thing,
Mhm.
which also means that you don't want to have like a huge lens on that.
Yes,
Okay,
of
now we
course.
can focus on Octolux if you really want to,
Yeah.
but it's definitely
Yeah.
not the type of lens we optimize for.
No.
And it is the same depth as an analog a rangefinder as well. So, which
Yeah.
means we do have a surprisingly important number of also female photographers using our camera because it's not a huge camera. It's not. Yeah, it's a small camera. It's meant to be. I wish I could make a modern collapsible lens to go with it.
Right. Yeah.
Occasionally, I do use my old Elmars on that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that'd be perfect, because you can almost pocket it, and
Yes.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the
it
Elmer.
needs a bit
It,
heavy, but
yeah. I mean, the Elmer, it's close, isn't it? In
right.
terms of size. I
You,
like
you
to
you can
wear.
use them, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
collapsible lenses, they do
Oh,
fit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. It's been made on purpose because I
Right.
actually wanted to use them with this, but they are not a very good match. I mean, qualitatively, the Elmars are still decent lenses,
Hmm.
despite their very grand age. But the look is totally odd.
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like it's like a yeah, it's like a very modern thing with a very old hat.
Yeah. 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 It would look good. But then, if you're in the business of making pictures,
Mhm.
how the camera
Yeah,
looks should be of a less. I
right.
was watching a video made by a future guest of the show yesterday. He makes videos on YouTube, and he was
Uh-huh.
talking about the Nikon ZF that he
Yeah,
loves,
yeah.
but that he hates plastic lenses. So he's
Ah,
paired it with the other lenses that Nikon makes that are made of metal because he prefers working with a metal body on the lens. And
mhm,
he said, and I know some people will look at that and go, well, it just looks weird. And he's like, well, I don't care. Like I'm
mhm,
interested because it from a handling perspective, it does all the things he wants. And
mhm.
the lens on the front, the metal construction lens that he's using, gives him the performance
Right.
that he
It's
wants. And
more
he can just,
perceptions than
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because I think outside of the camera community, sometimes you get hung up on this, right? And sometimes actually
yeah.
it absolutely doesn't matter. I let a guy at the Leica store in San Fran get in my head about Zeiss lenses
Oh
and the
yeah.
fact that my Zeiss lenses weren't good enough. I sold a lens and then deeply, deeply regretted it and then bought it back. It's like that's
Mhm.
silly. Just use the lens you like. The point of an interchangeable lens system
It,
should be being able to interchange the lenses. And if
it is.
Zeiss and Voigtlander exist,
Mhm,
I'd
mhm.
be crazy not to take advantage of the fact that this amazing glass exists.
Yeah, that's the other fun part of photography, and especially for, I mean, gears, folks like me who are more into gears than actually
Yeah.
photography,
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately. But it's, yeah, trying to find interesting lenses. I was
Mhm.
also sending this photo of this old sonar. So it's a contact lens
Yeah.
mounted with an adapter, and
Yeah.
I was in love with this one.
Yeah. Is that the 40 millimeter contacts that's
Uh,
very popular as well? Because that
no, I
one.
think that was no. That they were only
Oh, okay.
making 50s, so it's a 50 sonar
Ah, right.
with all of the sonar tricks, with
Yes.
back front focusing and so on, with
Yeah.
the added weirdness that the contacts mount. um you needed to focus I mean,
Or
it
the other way
was
around.
inversed, right?
Yeah.
So you need to go left to right or right to left in order to focus the lens, which means that it was a very weird experience, but
Yeah.
fun as
Yeah,
well.
no, that would be fun. Yeah, there's one of the Contax lenses, one of the G lenses, I think it was from the old 35mm cameras.
Oh yeah,
that
more
people are now
modern.
adapting. Yeah, and you can
Mhm.
get them put into a modern housing so that they natively fit, but they'll
Mhm.
take the lens, and it's like they sell it as a kit. You can do it yourself,
Oh yeah,
and
right. I saw that.
I just looked
Mhm.
at that. I was like, no way. I am not touching that. It's like I recently looked up how to replace the battery in my Polaroid i2 because the
Oh,
i1 the battery failed, and so that's just a paperweight now. But
uh-huh.
the battery in the i1 was at least in the front, so when you open the housing, you can
Yeah.
see it, even if it's
Mhm.
hard to get to. On the i2, it's a 60 some step process. You have to dismantle the entire camera, take
Okay.
the optical arrangement out, like everything has to come out just so you can replace that battery. And it's
But
like, oh,
for the lenses, I don't know if you know Amish also 35 mmc.
no,
Because well, he's been making his own limited edition lenses, and he's one of the early Pixie photographers,
right.
and he also one of the early reviewers. Because
Yeah.
well, I saw the guy gets it when it comes to the M8 10 years
Mm,
after, right?
yes. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
thought, well, because I'm doing an APS-C rangefinder, probably is not going to smash me, right? Because I'm not doing a full frame,
Sure.
so he may get
Yeah.
it. So well, when he asked if he could review the camera, and then we became friends. And so he's making his own limited edition lenses. And so if you have like lenses or adapters and so on, it's probably a good person to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, I've read some of his stuff. I don't know him,
Yeah.
but I should definitely hit him up. I've been very surprised by people's willingness to talk when you just
Yeah.
go, I had an idea for a thing, and it's the conceit is 3 lenses, but it's not really that important. It's like, again, I finished the conversation with Matthias yesterday, and he went, we didn't
Uh-huh.
really talk about the lenses. I'm like, I know, that's the best bit. That's the point. Like
Well,
talking to you, it's again, it's just
mm,
exciting. Like you don't talk to
yeah.
people who make a camera every day,
Mm,
that's
mm, mm,
wild.
mm, mm. Plus, I mean, plus we're friends. I mean, we work
Well,
together.
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I
I
remember
know.
actually the LinkedIn post like, I have discovered that you're the guy behind Pixie. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was a wonderful moment because I was scrolling through the website and I was looking at, and it was way before doing the podcast, way
Mhm.
before, but just like looking at you in the team photo and suddenly
Mm,
like, no,
mm.
that can't be.
No.
And it's like, it's brilliant. I love it because that's the thing is when we work together, like, especially when
Mm,
you work with people, it feels like it will always be this way, right? Like
yeah.
when we were in London, near
Mm,
the Tate on the 27th floor of that building and just
mm,
looking out at the world and just you
mhm.
would just be like, is that really like this is going to be it forever? Surely we're doing this. This is the mission. And then of course you're
Yeah.
not there forever.
Uh-huh.
So, then everyone moves on and goes on and has separate lives. And Alice and I were talking about potentially meeting other folks like
Oh
in
yeah.
London, like Steve and CBD and people like that. And so like, all these
Uh-uh.
people that we know, we might catch up with them, but they're all far flung now. Like
Yeah.
everyone lives in all these different places. So to have the excuse to kind of catch up and talk about
Mhm,
what you're doing in a bit more detail is just such a gift because it's not a
mhm.
guaranteed thing. People leave industries and move all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
lovely. And I think I can't imagine many things more exciting than, I mean, there's scratching your own itch, David. And
Mm,
then there's investing everything in building
yeah.
your own camera.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I
Yeah.
need to get my hands on one at some point. I will work that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
We
yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah. Be very
We'll have a
cool.
chat for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there
yeah.
are exciting things coming up as well. So
Yeah.
sure
Well,
we'll be
do
in
you
touch.
want to tease? Can you tease it? Because I saw there's the plus stuff on the website. Is
Yeah,
that
there's the plus version that
Mhm.
we released end of last year,
Yeah.
uh, mostly to extend the rangefinder uh, precision,
Yep.
the optical aspect as well with the diopter. Since then, we've worked a lot on the optical side and a bit on the electronic side. So we finally will have the magnifier ready because, Apple is our model, but Apple sometimes misses the
Yeah.
milestone when it comes to releasing products when they
Mhm.
plan. So the magnifier has been our, there's this dual charger they never released eventually.
Yeah.
Well,
What was it?
we're not going to
Air
do
power
that
or
with the
something?
magnifier.
No.
We will release the magnifier.
You will ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
but
small volume manufacturing is a very tough thing. I vaguely know the people at Panic who make the Playdate little handheld console, and when they announced the Playdate, which was years ago, and they also announced a little desktop dock that it connects to that has a speaker in, and it was going to play music, and it was going to be a whole thing. And even they, and they've shipped probably about 80,000 of these things now, which is, it's not an insignificant number of things, but in the world of manufacturing, sometimes that feels small. Yeah. But in there, I think in one of their most recent emails, it said, the dock is coming. It's been a whole thing. That was all they said. But that's the nice thing, I think, about being in this kind of small volume, direct relationship with your users. It's a conversation, because the problem with my iPhone or my iPad is how impersonal that relationship is now becoming to me as a consumer. It's like working for the Death Star, right? Like there are some good things they're doing, there are some not so good things that they're doing, there's some bits where they're dropping the ball, and that just is inevitable as you become just this behemoth. So like, to go right back to the beginning, what you were saying about focus, I believe strongly in that small teams do great work. If you allow them to focus, they will. It's if you keep throwing things at them constantly, and like, now we're going in this direction, and now we're going in this direction, and now it's services revenue, and now it's this, and it's like, what if you just spent a decade making a camera that you love, and it sounds like you're at the point that you wanted to always get to, like that you're kind of there now.
It took a while, but now I think we're on the right track, and so we're doing a lot of work on the optical side. Actually, we started about a month ago to release a plus version. That is, everyone who's buying a Pixie Plus, for about a month, actually gets a tiny 100 micron adjustment that makes a difference, on the border of the viewfinder. So, but it was kind of a free adjustment. So
yes,
we're starting to, doing a rolling release. Rick Spencer.
Yes, gosh, it's great. This is an episode of the podcast that self-indulgently includes the names of people that no one will have any idea who they are. Oh, Evan listens, so Evan will know. But beyond that, I'm not sure I'll get Alice to listen to another one. I got her to listen to the first one, and I think for the first, there was a magazine in the UK years ago called Total Film, and they used to do, when they were reviewing a movie, they had a graph, and it was like an interest over time. And so it would show you kind of where the good bits in the movie were almost. And I think Alice's interest over time graph dipped at about the 25-minute mark, when it was just two friends talking about what their favorite lens was. She was like, oh, okay, I mean, this was fun to start with, but now I'm out. 5-minute highlights will be fine for her. But that's really cool. Well, I'm very excited. I do look forward to hearing more about it and more of the stuff.
It was awesome to chat with you today. And I hope we'll have the occasion to do that again.
Yes.
In the future.
Well, hopefully in person. I know. So Julian Pasternak, who I spoke to in one of the earlier episodes, he's in Paris.
Okay.
So
maybe, where are you based now? So again, this is the
sure.
You're editing, but
that's fine. We're in the Highlands, so up near Aviemore. So very far north.
Very far north. Okay,
Very, like on a kind of similar level of Stockholm. So same sort of level to like Stockholm and Sweden and places like that.
High up.
Oh yeah, no, it's high, but it's great because it's still daylight at like 10 o'clock almost. It's crazy. So it's amazing light at this kind of longitude and latitude. But it's a long way from places. Friends, Alice jokes with me that since we moved to Scotland, I've got friends all over the world, but no friends here yet. So I need to come and see my friends. What you're doing is so exciting. It really is. Like, just what a tremendous thing. So I'm really glad it exists and that it's working for you. That's really, really cool.
Cool.
So where can people find out more about Pixie? We'll say it online on the recording.
Oh yes, on pixie.fr. You can also hit pixiecamera.com if you're a geek, and you know that I've also redirected the DNS.
Yeah, of course.
It's a French camera, so it needs to be pixie.fr. Also, I'm not even sure many people know what .fr is anymore.
Yes. No. That's
So
really
it's
cool.
called Pixie because of Mr. Hippolyte Pixie, and it's pixie.fr because it is a French camera, even if all of our website is in English and we get shit from French because we're only speaking English.
Oh no, you'll have to do a
It's a
localization.
podcast where we can swear?
Yes, you can. Yes,
Okay.
we can definitely let that through. That's fine.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, thank
Cool.
you so much,
Thank
David.
you, Ian. Yeah. Have a
I will
great
speak to you again soon.
day. Yeah. And whenever you want, it'll be a pleasure.
Oh,
That's
cool.
cool.
All right.
And say
Brilliant,
hi
man.
to everyone, you meet from Connecticut
I
and to
will.
your dear wife as well.
Oh, I will. Thank you, mate. All right. Have a good, lovely rest of the day. Take care.
Great day. Yeah.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. See you, Ian.
You can rate and review this series on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and that'll help people to find the show. You can also sign up for a midweek newsletter that I've started doing. You can get that at ianfarrell.com/sign-up, and there is a link to it in the show notes as well. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.